Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome and thank you for joining us, whether in the sanctuary or by Zoom, for this third in this financial series presented by the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union and Woman to Woman, Inc. Thank you for attending. Thank you and welcome. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, I come first to say thank you. Thank you for all of your blessings. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I come, Heavenly Father, asking you to bless everyone that is attending today. Thank you for all that you do for us, Heavenly Father. Thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for this opportunity to gain knowledge on financial challenges and what we need to do as women. Thank you for your many blessings, Heavenly Father. Thank you for this third session of the Financial Workshop series presented by Paul Quinn and Woman to Woman. We thank you for your many blessings. We ask that you continue to be with us, and we thank you for the presenters this day. This is my prayer in Jesus' name, amen.
Good afternoon, and again, welcome. We're so happy that you're with us again for this vital session that will give you information that is much, much needed. On behalf of Woman to Woman has touched so many lives. Since 1998, when the founder, Marion Brown, started it, we will have to let you know that we are pleased that we give service to the community. We give various workshops. We deal with women's issues and others, but particularly with programs that target seniors and especially those in need of things just for a quality of life. We've had sessions on health, education. We now have restarted a girls' mentorship rites of passage program. And for today, the last session for this year, finances. Woman to Woman and Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union decided to educate the church and community in managing our finances. The credit union will speak and introduce themselves, and at the end of the session, you will hear more from them. I give you now, before I give you our presenter, let me give you a brief bio. Now, you've heard this before, those of you who have been on with us the first two sessions, and so I'll give this to you just to remind you how important this young man is. Darren James is an American-born native of St. Martin in the Dutch West Indies. He is currently celebrating his 10th year as a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual, Western Massachusetts, located in Springfield, Massachusetts. Darren is in his 8th blissful year of marriage to his college sweetheart. They met at American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts. They are the proud parents to twin 5-year-old son, Cameron, and daughter, Kaya, and an almost 2-year-old son, Caden. Darren is an active member of St. John's Congregational Church in Springfield, Massachusetts since 2010. He currently serves clients across the United States, serving almost 600 households on the approach to 100 unique individuals with various aspects of their financial planning. Darren's passion and commitment to planning stems from losing his own father and living out the reality of what incomplete and fragmented planning does to families. In addition to his work as an advisor to his clients, Darren is also a growth and development director, helping to attract and develop financial advisors to the industry. Darren is a certified trainer for Northwestern Mutual and hopes to impact more families and communities through the advisors he helps develop and serve, in addition to his own clients. Darren is also the treasurer of the Martin Luther King Jr. Family Service Center, a board member of the Martin Luther King Jr. Charter School of Excellence, and the vice president of the African American Female Professor Award Association, all in Springfield, Mass. Please join us in welcoming Darren James from Northwestern Mutual. Darren, here he is.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Annette, for, as always, a warm introduction. And it is an honor, and I count it a blessing that God put us all together in this space that we can impact the lives of folks in this third and final workshop session. So, a little disclaimer as we kick off today. I am not a woman. And so I want to be mindful and respectful of the obvious. Today we're going to be talking about financial challenges that women face and how to overcome them. Now, why do I think I've earned the right to sit here and talk to a wonderful group of ladies about this when I myself am not a woman? Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, the fragmented planning that unfortunately my family experienced was put back together. The puzzle pieces of it all were held together by a strong and sensational woman in my mother. And so I got a chance to firsthand see what that's like. The second is, I counted only by God that somehow most of whom I've attracted to my business and where we're having the most impact are prominent and accomplished women in their space. And so as we move through today, I think there are, the challenges that we face in planning are, across the board for everyone, but particularly we see that women have a specific set of challenges in the marketplace each day that we're helping them to address. So as we move into the presentation, look, we recognize that women are largely underserved by our industry. Both as clients and in my role as a growth and development director, I see this as we're underserved and having enough female advisors to connect with the marketplace. So we're making this commitment to the thousands of women that we serve to dig in and be intentional around what we're doing. I'm proud to be here, not just representing Northwestern, that has really put their money where their mouth is as being a champion for women in the marketplace as advisors and as clients, but as myself. And so as we move through today, I'd love you all to also be thinking, as you think about your own finances and the impact of who should know about the opportunity to become a financial advisor. Because it's not something that comes up in day-to-day conversation, but it is a real career path for women. And with Northwestern Mutual, there's a huge opportunity to definitely get connected in a practical way to doing this. So let's talk about you. What's the biggest obstacle that's getting in your way when it comes to your financial goals? And I want you to think short term. Through the last few sessions, we've talked about sometimes it's simply going through a budget and knowing where my dollars are going. For others, or in conjunction even, it may be that I'm in a lot of debt and I can't see my way out of it in a practical way. There are a number of different things, but at the end of it, what we think about is this is all about goal planning. We've all got goals, whether that's being able to retire or to just feel okay in our finances, or buying a house, starting a business, whatever it is. I want you to take a quiet moment here and just jot down for yourself 3 of your financial goals. 1 short term, 1 midterm, and 1 long term. Let's take a quiet moment to do that. So as you think about those goals, so a short-term goal should be something that you want to accomplish in the next 6 to 12 months. Midterm, somewhere between a year, starting a year from now, going to the next 3 years. And then a long-term goal 3 years plus from now. And they don't all need to be financial, but we're here for a finance workshop, but because I believe that things are intricately intertwined. All right. Anybody feeling brave and want to share one or any of their goals?
If anyone wants to share, please raise your hand and Eva will come to you. They're all shy, Darren.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Hold it close to your vest. That's okay. Well, as you think about your goals, here's the thing. The thing that's important about goal planning is that the more specific you are, the more likely we are to help you accomplish that goal, right? And so I want you to hold that because those things can be very much intertwined into your finances because of how you feel. As we think about the challenges that could get in your way from accomplishing those goals, there are 3 big challenges we see showing up in the marketplace for women in particular. So the first one is, look, women often are earning less than men. And so if you wrote down a financial goal, well, you know that it might be more challenging for you to accomplish that goal compared to somebody who is the same role as you, same tenure as you, same job title as yours, and y'all should be making the same money. But unfortunately, in the marketplace, it's unfair, but that's not always true. Second challenge is that women are often caregivers. And this isn't just while you're raising a family, but it's often you're taking care of the family, right? You are, in essence, the matriarch of a lot of families, or at least the center nucleus. And then there's aging parents and sometimes siblings that you're maybe caring for. And then the third challenge, and we see this when we build financial plans all the time, is women tend to live longer than their male counterparts. And so you are challenged in that you've got to do more with less. I make less money. I've got to pour more of it out throughout my life in other areas, and then I'm going to live longer, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about how these all make a difference and how to overcome them. So statistically speaking, so it's not just my say-so, this is according to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 18% less is what women make compared to their male counterparts. And that can have impact on everything. How much you save in your emergency fund for a rainy day, how much you use for retirement. All those goals you just wrote down can all be affected by this reality. The second one, again, is caregiving. About 75% of caregivers, are women. And I think, even right out of the starting gate of my own wife, who is at home raising our young, beautiful family, right? But that has been the last 5 years, a full-time job and a half, and maybe a second full-time job on some days, right? So thinking about how much time and love that takes, and that goes on for most folks, an average of 10 years. So you've got all that happening just when we think about raising a family, but then about 9 or 10% of women, somewhere between age 45 and 56, And some of you may have experienced this through that stage in your life already, where part of what we talk about is the sandwich generation, where you were raising kids and taking care of your parents at the same time, right? Or a sibling or somebody else in the family who was an adult while you were still raising your family. And then, so the financial impact to caregiving that we think about is your career gets impacted. You know, my wife and I had to make a hard decision. She had just started to launch her career. She was really excited about getting into this career space that she wanted to get into. And when God blessed us with twins, it was really hard for her to sustain that career. And then when he blessed us again with a third child, 3 years later, it was almost impossible physically for her to maintain that career. And so she had to choose to put her career on pause for a few years. And as we're rounding the corner, we think about the impact that that's had on her momentum and where she may have been now in a different circumstance. And we don't look back on that with any guilt or shame, right? But it's a conscious decision that we had to make because of the impact that that had on the overall family finances, right? And on her as a strong, proud woman getting ready to grow. And again, to drive the last nail here is when you think about being a caregiver, even when income does exist, you're giving up about 26% of it to caregiving. You're making sure that everybody and everything is okay. So how do we tackle these obstacles, right? That's what we're here to really talk about. So here's the thing. When we think about making sure, we're going to start with the end in mind. Women live longer. How do we make sure that you have enough money for the long haul? Well, it comes down to the fundamentals of planning. Number one is having a real understanding of your cash flow on the front end. As a follow-up to today, everybody's going to be given a copy of a budget. I hate the word budget. It's a dirty word, right? It makes you feel like somebody's about to put you on a diet. Ugh. So think about it less as a budget and more as a cash flow plan, right? In all of our heads, and I am and have been guilty of this too, you got a running sense of what it costs to run your life, how much you can afford, what you can spend. But sometimes the numbers get lost. We get tripped up along the way. And that presents the first challenge, right? Is, well, if we don't have a very clear sense of what's coming in, what's going out, how do you determine how much you can realistically set away for yourself, for retirement in the long haul, and in the short term to deal with whatever life's going to throw at you? So having a budget is going to be one of the most fundamental things that we talk about. And then the second is having a real clear understanding of your retirement planning. You don't have to raise your hand on this one, but I want you to give thought to this. How many of us have gone in and maybe put away money into some type of retirement plan through your employer that you didn't quite understand and nobody could explain it to you, and you didn't want to feel or think you might have looked silly or less educated, so you didn't ask? And you never found out. And then when the rubber started to meet the road, right, as you're living in your retirement, well, now you're concerned about where those dollars are, right? Are they going to last long enough? Do I need to continue to scale back what I'm spending and buy the store brand versus the thing I like and enjoy, because I'm not going to do that? So Janet brings up a really great point in the chat that most of this room is already in retirement. And I appreciate that sentiment, Janet, right? And so distribution planning becomes the most important. And I think this is where most financial advisors don't help their clients in the best way possible. It's all about, give me the money. Let me help you grow the money. But distribution planning, if none of you or you haven't gone through it in a long time, this is the critical piece where you continuously take stock of your assets and go, hey, number one, am I invested properly and taking not more risk than I need to inside my financial plan so that I can achieve the kinds of returns that keep up with inflation, that keep up with my spending pattern, that keep up with my longevity. Just look at your parents, look at your family around you. How long are they around, and how good care are you taking care of yourself? All those things factor into how do we make sure that by math, not just by feeling and a prayer alone, but by math, that you can trust that you're going to be okay. And so if none of you or if any of you haven't done that kind of distribution planning, I would highly encourage you to meet with a professional, whether it be myself or somebody else, and ask them to do a real distribution plan for you and take stock of all of your assets and think about what's the best order in which I can start to liquidate these assets, right? You've got to think about things like taxation. I met with one of my clients 2 weeks ago, and we reran his distribution plan. He's about 3 years into his retirement. We reran his distribution plan. He had lost his wife right before he retired. And the biggest consideration that we have always had to make inside that plan was tax risk. And I'm no tax professional, right? So I can't give tax advice. But from a tax strategy standpoint, we have to think about, hey, if every dollar we take out of his retirement plan comes to him, he's got to pay tax on it. But the tax code is not written in pen. It's written in pencil. We are a few months ago, we were staring down the bottom of 2025 going, hey, what's the government going to do? Because if they change the tax code, taxes might go up. And everything's going to get a little harder for everybody because the average person was going to start paying somewhere between 3 to 5% more in federal taxes. And there was nothing that they could do about it. And the states weren't going to bring the tax rate down. Now, fortunately, there's been some clarity. So the current tax code has been indefinitely extended. So there's going to be no immediate change to your actual income tax, how you get taxed on your retirement plan. But some strategies that you may think about, right, in terms of living longer and making sure you have enough resources are, how do I mitigate tax risk? One strategy to think about, and again, please don't take any of this as individual advice because I don't know your personal situation. So you can't take this as individual advice, but you look at it and you go, hey, there's a type of planning called Roth, R-O-T-H, Roth planning, that even though you're retired, you can do. So, and I want to make sure to keep this conversational because it can get a little involved. But the thought process is this. If you're earning, let's just pick a number, right? If you're earning in retirement, you need to cover $3,000 a month of expenses to be comfortable and okay, right? And the top of the tax bracket is $48,000 a year or $4,000 a month. You can take that difference, that extra roughly $1,000 a month, and decide to take it out of your retirement accounts. Take it as taxable income this year, even though you don't need it. But then you take that money and you reinvest it into a Roth IRA account. Now, the difference between a Roth IRA and the traditional IRA is that in the traditional, all the dollars you take out are taxed at the current tax code. But in the Roth, you decide to pay the taxes now, you reinvest the money, and then when you need this money 10 years, 20 years from now, all of the earnings inside that account come out 100% income tax free. So if, and some might argue when the tax code changes and taxes go up in America, you at least have some optionality. I could choose to take this many dollars out of my taxable account and pay the tax rate on it. But then so that I don't gobble up all my resources too fast, just because I got to pay Uncle Sam, I can take some money out of my Roth account where I could have made $100, I could have made $1 million. It doesn't matter. I will never pay tax on those dollars again. that can help elongate your money. And doing it now, especially if you're blessed to have some abundance of resource in your retirement account, or you at least think you might, it's worth a strategy, definitely worth looking at, right? So that can be a great hedge for, hey, as you live longer, how do you get more out of your dollars? But the fundamental truth to that is, well, first, you've got to do an assessment of your dollars and your distribution strategy. Because if those things don't align, then, it won't make sense to think about doing that strategy. So you think about living longer, right? How do you do that? And then there's just the natural cost of you living longer and the risk to doing things like long-term care. Hey, who's going to take care of you? You've spent a lot of time taking care of other folks throughout your life, but who's going to help take care of you if something were to happen? So, for a lot of folks, the thought and the strategy is, well, the government's going to take care of me, aren't they? And I mean, eventually, yes, that's not the strategy that I think most of us would love to have, right? Because you don't want to end up at the mercy of somebody else deciding what your care looks like, how much they're going to pay for it. And when you've already done a decent job of amassing some wealth, some assets, you got some money in the bank, right? You've got to think about that, because the government benefit's not going to kick in until essentially you go broke, right? In order to qualify for Medicaid and have long-term care foot the bill for your ongoing care, they require you to do a spend down of your assets down to $2,000. And that may include things like the value of your home if you have one. So it really is important, as you think about living longer, that you develop a strategy for how you're going to pay for your care. And that doesn't mean you got to go to a nursing home. I know the marketplace I'm talking to. Doesn't mean you're going to end up in a nursing home. But if somebody's going to come and care for you at home, how are we paying for that? Right? Somebody may make the decision to say, hey, mom, auntie, grandma made this sacrifice for me. When I needed them, they took a step back in their career to help me raise my kids, be there for me. I'm going to do the same. But from a financial perspective, you can put some plans in place, insurance policies, smart strategy for stretching your dollars so that you can help even pay them for their time, right? Without it gobbling up all your stuff, without having to go on Medicaid as the only strategy. And so it's important to think about those pieces when it comes to long-term care planning. It's, how do I distribute the math? How do I make sure I'm going to be well cared for? How do I make sure? This entire series over the last 3 months has been about how do you gain options when it comes to your money? So there we're talking about the income protection, the asset protection for the rest of your life. And while you're in retirement, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that your money needs to continue to grow. I think one of the biggest challenges for a lot of folks is they get to retirement or the thought of retirement, and their reaction has always been, well, my money needs to be safe, so I'm going to put it someplace safe where it's sitting in cash, even if that means I'm not making great return on it. And those two things don't have to go together, because number one, most people create the vast majority of their wealth while they're in retirement, not before. You need to get the number big enough so that it can sustain you in retirement, and that number can be growing at a fast enough pace that it's sustaining you comfortably and creating more wealth than you might even need or want. And that's how we start to build generational wealth. I've had a number of people I've met through the years who, on the run up to retirement, right, they made a decision to pull back, put their money in cash. They're having it sit at institutions where they're earning 0.05% interest on their money. Those are dangerous decisions, ladies and gentlemen, right? Those are dangerous decisions. And so we want to make sure that your dollars are continuing to grow our partners here at Quinn Federal Credit Union, they've got a great savings program, a high yield savings program, where even just your emergency money sitting in cash can be earning you a healthy interest rate north of 3%, 3.5% last time I talked with the team about it. And so those small decisions, if you're sitting on even, $10,000 of cash as your rainy day fund, you earn what you're earning at your regular bank account. Well, you're talking about earning $5 a year in interest. And you've all been around long enough to remember what it was like when a savings account was real good, right? Better than I would ever even know. And savings accounts were double-digit growth. And you go, I remember I could have a little bit of money and make a lot in the savings account. And now you may have a lot of money and you're making virtually nothing. So repositioning your wealth strategically into safe assets, but that are growing, makes a lot of sense. And looking at your plan, because you are retired, doesn't mean that your assets need to be uninvested. It doesn't mean they need to be sitting in cash, because they simply cannot grow to keep pace with the rising cost of living. Put together a distribution strategy to figure out your income, to be sustainable, and if it's important to you, to create some legacy for your family downline. I want to pause here and create some space for questions from the audience. As you think about some of these strategies so far, what comes up for you specifically that you're concerned about or would like some more insight on?
If anyone has questions, again, please raise your hand. Eva will come and give you the mic.
And for our folks online, feel free to raise your hand virtually there too, or unmute. Okay, hearing no questions, I'll keep rolling. So we talked mostly about long-term care today, right? Given the notion of the challenge of you living longer. The other side to that, though, is none of us know when our time is coming. And women have a strategic advantage from an insurance planning perspective in that because insurance companies know that you live longer, because insurance companies know that typically women are more responsible, if you will, about taking care of themselves, going to the doctor, saying when something is wrong, your insurance costs are typically lower. And so regardless of your age, it is important for you to at least explore what happens when you pass away from a life insurance perspective. You might think, hey, I'm too old for this. I don't want to do this, right? I don't think I'll get approved. It might be too expensive. And any combination of those things could be true, but I would challenge you not to take that as a surface blanket statement and not do anything about it. Because the most tragic things we've all experienced at some point in our lives, unfortunately, see in the family where there was no financial planning in place. There was not enough insurance planning. There was no life insurance planning. The family didn't have enough money, and up go the GoFundMe pages to try to be a bridge, right? Whether that is somebody who has lived a good long life and just didn't have a lot of resource at the end, or somebody who was tragically young and passed away. So managing the risk, we talked about long-term care, but life insurance risk is very real as well. And so that's part of the challenge. And again, because of the positive things of being a woman, insurance planning is often cheaper than it would be. My wife and I, almost the same age, her insurance is almost always going to be cheaper than mine, right? Because even in my peak health as a man, the insurance company perceives her 3 pegs down the pricing ladder as about almost the same as me, right? Because men tend to die sooner. They tend to not manage their health risk as well and go to the doctor. We've all seen the billboards, right? Don't be a stubborn man. So think about those things as it relates to how do we manage the risk here on the table for you. And then the last piece is, again, I tie back to my original statement around a budget. And for those of you who've been in the room, I hope and trust you're getting the same messaging from me, because these fundamental things don't change in the plan, but it's creating an emergency fund, right? And how do you do that if you are earning less? You got to stretch the dollar further. Don't do it by yourself. Stop. You do not have to do it all. You know, one of my first female clients she was, very successful. She checked all the boxes of the things I was talking about today. She was a divorcee who was taking care of 2 kids and taking care of her family otherwise, and trying to figure it out and grow in her income and grow her business. And when I met her, she was managing life on a credit card. When there was no cash, she would pile up the debt, and then she would go make a bunch of money and she would pay it off, but she was never quite getting ahead. And when we got a chance to talk, it was simple. It wasn't easy, but it was simple. She didn't have the infrastructure. She didn't know how to set up her cash flow for success. And so one of the things that we did was simply look at her cash flow and start to peel a little bit off, right? Before I could find a new job. And that even with her earning less, even with her covering all the bases, today, she's well positioned. She's got money in investment accounts. She's got very healthy bank account balances. And over the years, I was blessed to be a part of, but got to see her confidence grow. And when we got together for her financial plan, she was in control. She went, Darren, I put this much money here because I know that I've got to pay taxes. And I put this much money here because this is the number I know is what covers all my expenses, even if I have a bad month from an income standpoint, right? And she changed her behavior and go, I don't think I should be doing these things anymore. So there are ways to do it. We all just need an accountability buddy, because more money is not the answer to all of the problems. Because if the fundamental behavior doesn't change, I don't care how old you are. My mom is 74 and I'm still helping her change some habits, right? That are deep-seated, and watching her have success, thank God, along the way, right? But it just takes having that accountability, having that outside voice to tell you to give yourself some grace, having that outside voice to help hold your feet to the fire when you know you're pushing the envelope and doing the things you know you ain't supposed to be doing, but you're doing them anyway, right? And be accountable to that. And again, I don't think in this room it's as relevant, but for the young woman you may be mentoring, you may have in your life who should know this stuff, I think that the other important thing is making sure that there's an income replacement plan. A lot of people fall victim to this notion that if something happens to me, my job will take care of me. I got insurance at work for that. And one of my colleagues in a previous career, she lived through this the hard way, and we're colleagues in this business. She does a different type of planning as a business owner. But after 30 years of working with a company and giving them her heart, soul, time, everything, her body was beat up. She was working in retail at the mall as a manager, grew through the ranks over 30 years, making a healthy income. But then her knees finally gave out. She had to go out and get a couple of knee replacement surgeries, and things didn't go well. And when she went to file the paperwork to get her income, she did the math in her head of what she thought she was going to get. But her base pay at work was less than half of her income because she was in sales. So when she went to file her benefit, her company said, yeah, we're going to pay you, but we're only going to pay you 60% of your base pay. So she ended up with 30% of what she was used to making. And the negative impact that had on her was that she didn't ever fully recover, because when the money started to get too thin, she did what most of us do, they have to react, and she had to buck up, get back out to work, and figure out how to build an income. So this is an easily prevented concern by making sure you understand your insurance plan through work and supplementing it with your own planning. And again, this is not designed to make today an insurance heavy conversation, but when we think about how to build out a good financial plan, right? When I think about the women that I am fortunate to be their advisor, the difference is everything in their life they are being thoughtful about, right? There's a reason you stay up nights and worry and try to figure things out and come up with ideas. So why aren't we doing that with the engine of your life, your resources and your money? So putting this stuff in place, especially for somebody who's still working now, can be immensely valuable. So we talked through, life insurance planning. So I won't belabor the issue there. And the last piece, and if you weren't fortunate to be on our last call, strategic debt management. Can I be honest with you? I think most of us are ashamed of the debt we carry. Even in this debt-ridden, it's okay to carry debt American culture. You don't want anybody to know your credit score, the same way you don't want them to know how much money's in your bank account, the same way you don't want them to know some things about you. Just please stop trying to go this thing alone. If you pay down debt, you free yourself. You free yourself to make strong decisions. And I see this particularly with clients who are well seasoned, right? You've got good credit scores, or things are going good, and you don't think you're carrying a lot of debt. You don't think that you're carrying debt with high interest, but even if your credit card today, if you're carrying a balance month by month and it's 12% that they're charging you, I want you to do the math on this. Simple math, right? Stay with me. If I got $10,000 on a credit card that I'm carrying just month by month, right? It's not a big deal to me. I know I could pay it off. But the credit card company is charging you 12% interest a year. That's 1% a month. Doesn't feel like a lot, right? Oh, it's an extra $100 that they're charging me, whatever. But if you had $10,000 in a bank account, the bank's only paying you, I'm going to be generous and easy math and call it 1%. So $10,000 in a bank account, $10,000 on a credit card. This one, you're only earning, you're getting charged $100 a month, but on $10,000 earning 1% at the bank, what are you earning? $100 a year, $8 a month. And so the math doesn't serve you, right? And so it's easy for your mind to play games with you. But here's what I love about what I do with my clients and what they've told me has been immensely valuable. Math doesn't lie. Sometimes just needs to be put into context. So we talked through long-term care, a couple of other estate planning and legacy end-of-life conversations that are important to have. Some of you may still have parents that are around. So number one, a good estate plan is one of the biggest challenges, I think, to generational wealth building. It's certainly a good estate plan, and not having one is one of the biggest challenges across our community. Be careful. You got to ask yourself and understand the implications of things like, hey, this says talk with your parents about this, but think about this even for yourself, right? Whose name is on your bank account? If anybody's. If you don't have an estate plan today, and a basic estate plan has a couple of documents. It's got a final will and testament, right? Which is only a ticket to probate court, right? Having a will doesn't get your family out of going to probate and being in court at the end of your life. all that is a ticket to probate court with instructions for what you wanted to have happen. So a will by itself is not a sufficient estate plan, but it will include a will. It should have a health care proxy, and it should have a power of attorney and a durable power of attorney, right? Some of them will even have what's called a springing power of attorney, so that, look, like nobody has access to my stuff unless I've been deemed incapacitated. I can't sign off on my stuff. I'm in a coma. And then the power of attorney springs into action and allows somebody else to access my stuff. Because this is important. Just adding somebody's name to your bank account, which is casually what people get told to do at times, can be really dangerous. Because if you add their name to your bank account, you've added them as a co-owner on your assets. And if that person is in financial distress, guess what? Your account is now a part of what is accessible. I actually had this happen to a client earlier this year. He was a business owner, and unfortunately his accounting firm didn't do a good job of managing the taxes they were supposed to pay in the restaurant, and he was unaware of it. And when he found out, it was because the government came and put a lien on his bank account. They started garnishing the bank account, and they took money out of his grandmother's bank account. And I'm not talking about small dollars. They took almost all of it. And they took it because by design, him being added as an account owner meant that they could go and take that money. And they did. So be mindful of this. Estate planning is really important in understanding, hey, this person has access to my account with my permission, but making sure that they're not a co-owner and that your affairs are not being put at risk. So the good estate plan, again, should have a final will and testament, a healthcare proxy, because there's no guarantee that you're going to end up going to the hospital closest to where your house is, and that the nurse is there and them know you and you sign off on their healthcare proxy. If you're traveling and something happens, they don't know you. They don't know who can make decisions for you. So having an independent healthcare proxy is important. A power of attorney and a durable power of attorney. And sometimes there's a springing power of attorney that can pop up. And again, all that power of attorney says is, hey, this person that I trust, that I'm signing off on as somebody I trust and believe in, has the authority to make decisions over my bank accounts, can make decisions on my behalf. And those other two, definitions, the durable and the springing power of attorney, just help set the terms and conditions, right? So it's not always like, oh, you got blanket decision. Like I go to my bank account one day and the money's gone because this person had access and they've changed. It's no, I've got it set up so that only if I am incapacitated, I'm in a coma, whoop, now somebody that I trust has access to my stuff. And this happened to a young client of mine, right? She was 26 years old, and I forget the medical diagnosis, but at 26, she ended up in a coma. Thank God she's okay. She came out of it, but she was in a coma for months. At 26 years old, she wasn't thinking about having an estate plan with these things, but it was hard because she woke up out of a coma, and guess what? Her financial life was ruined. Nobody paid her bills. Nobody could pay her bills. They didn't know what bills she had. They didn't know how to pay them. They couldn't do that, right? So those became really things that every adult should have the basics of an estate plan in place, so that if something happens to you, somebody can help make decisions. I know there's a question on the floor. I want to make one final point here, because we're a few weeks into this season. For those of you who've got grandkids and kids that just went off to college, this is something that doesn't get talked about often enough, that impacts everybody's financial planning. Your children or grandchildren at 18 should have a healthcare proxy, going off to college because you just sent them off to nowhere, brand new city, brand new town, nobody knows them. And if all of a sudden they end up in the hospital one night and you're calling concerned and want to know what happens, what are they going to tell you? Oh, HIPAA protects this person. I can't tell you anything. Next of kin or not, right? Like there's so many safeguards in place. So the minute that anybody becomes an adult, some of these fundamental documents should get in place. And it doesn't just mean get a will. Because a will, again, it's just your written instruction. This is what mama wanted. That doesn't mean it's how it's about to go down. But we've got some guidance around what we should be doing. But legally doesn't carry all the weight, right? The best thing that you can do, and again, I'm no attorney, so this is not legal advice, but we know how it impacts the financial plan, is get with an estate planning attorney. Figure out, should I have a trust? Should I have a trust so that my assets are no longer in my name? They're still 100% under my control, but they're not in my name. And they are independently owned by the trust. That is what protects your family. That is what protects you in all these multitudes of situations that we've gone over today, from long-term care planning to incapacitation to just generally wanting to have some safeguards in place around your wealth. I'm going to pause there. There's some questions on the floor. Tony, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. My question relates to the bank account. You talked about having someone's name on the account and they would have the opportunity either to go into your account, or if they were in jeopardy of having a lien or something, that money could be taken out, as you mentioned, with the grandparent. So my question is two-part. Is there something called payable on death? And if so, is that something that would protect you from that happening, and where they don't have access to your money, or they're not, your money's not in jeopardy while you're living?
Yes, so payable on death, and this is important for you to talk with your banker about, making sure the term might be slightly different in different institutions, but yes, payable on death, similar to in the investment world, we have what's called a transfer on death component to an account. So that is my money. I am the only one who has control over it during my life, but when I die, somebody can furnish a death certificate and it will trigger this by contract. This money is going to the stated beneficiary and can be a cleaner way of handling things. Again, because I'm not an attorney, right? I've got to have my disclaimers on here, and thinking about, whether you're from New York or, maybe you live in different states, or you may end up in a different state. It's important that you understand where your money is as well, right? On a state by state basis, those things can change. But a payable on death, yes, is a good feature to what's called by contract. Make sure your money lands where you wanted it to go and can potentially avoid going to probate.
Thank you.
Yep. So that was one part. What was the second part?
No, the second point was, did it protect you from having the IRS or someone else, a lien holder, going into your account for someone else's debt? So you answered that question, that it does protect you. So you can put someone else's name on your account without it being in jeopardy.
Absolutely. And again, the biggest distinction there is because it's a beneficiary tool that you're using versus making them a co-owner or a joint owner of your account.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. What other questions are on the floor? All right, I want to check the chat and see if there are any more here. Okay, perfect. So these questions that are on your screen, I challenge you to give thought to them. And here, let me do this. Tony, I'm sharing. There we go. The questions that are here on your screen, I challenge you to give thought to them, right? As some of what we've talked about today, particularly when it comes to things like long-term care planning and what should be happening. Should family be thinking about how we're going to pay for long-term care? Should it be something that gets funded out of your asset base, right? Can the assets sustain themselves and pay for this? right? Because these are the things, these are the complexities that come up at the end of life for a lot of families, where some thoughtful conversation with a professional team, financial advisor, estate planning attorney, accountant, right, would change the game across the board. So we talked through a lot of risk. We talked about growing your wealth effectively. So this is the scariest part for me. Like every day we talk to, 3, 5, sometimes 8 people. And the number one question is, hey, can you send me a statement of just your affairs, right? So we can get eyes on it. And it's amazing to me how often we find that people have money sitting in cash unknowingly, but they think it's doing something because it's inside of an investment account. Your investment accounts can hold just cash, not invested, not working. So make sure you check on that, right? Make sure you have somebody who knows what they're talking about, knows what they're doing, that you can trust. Look at it and go, hey, how is this money invested? And don't worry about it. Like, some of you are medical professionals. Some of you have been in marketing and copywriting and all kinds of stuff. If I came and did your job for a day, I wouldn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't have a clue. So don't feel bad about not knowing about your money, right? Like, that's not your job to know. You don't go to your doctor and tell them what is wrong with you and that they should accept it. You go there because that's their area of expertise. We talked through some retirement strategies early on, but here's the thing: for most of you who are in retirement, the thing you got to plan for is you made it. You made it past 65 or so, and you're well into retirement. You've got to be planning for a 30-year retirement, given how long people, and particularly women, are living. I don't run a financial plan for any of my female clients that doesn't get them to age 95. 95. You did not hear me stutter, because that's the reality of how long we need to be prepared for you to be able to have enough money aligned with your goals that you feel good about. And it's a tiered strategy, right? Eventually, you're going to start to spend a little bit less money than you do now, right? But in some of the early years, for some of you, what my dad used to call a junior senior citizen, for some of you juniors out there who are still active, right? I don't know, Miss Annette probably keeps a busier calendar than I do in the year that I've known her, right? You get busy. There's plenty to do. And while you still have that energy and gumption and vibrancy to life, like, you're going to be probably spending more than you will be when you are in your 80s, right? So being able to plan for the tiers of retirement and how you're going to spend your money is important. But increasingly for the ladies in the room that are already retired, a lot's changed in the retirement planning world, like we talked about with regard to tax planning. Roth IRAs were not a thing for most of you throughout the bulk of your saving years. The account literally did not exist. For those of you that might still be working and earning earned income, a Roth 401k wasn't a thing. Did not exist until 2012. So the important thing to remember is that financial planning is a journey, right? Life is a journey. The rules around it adapt and change, and you need to make sure that you are, and that your money's adapting along with you. Check on your money. 40-year-old Miss Annette, I'm going to use you because you're in the front row, right? So I don't know anything about Annette's financial plan, but I can see her clearly from where I sit, right? 40-year-old Annette's investment strategy versus today's Annette's investment strategy should not look the same. She could have taken more risk at 40 than she could now, but she doesn't need to be sitting in cash. So understanding how much risk is appropriate is important. And again, you open those statements and that stuff looks like Chinese, right? I don't know what all these numbers mean. I don't know what's happening in this account. All I need to know is it appropriate in terms of what it's invested in, how much risk I'm taking, and is it going to accomplish the goal that I've set out for it? And that's where I strongly believe, not because I am one as a professional, but just no bias, right? Like if you don't know that stuff, you've never been trained on it, how can you know if it's doing the right thing? Saving matters all the time, right? Even now while you're in retirement, making sure that you got the fundamental building blocks in place matters. But again, for those of you that are still in your accumulation years, even if you haven't started saving yet, even as a woman with the challenges we talked about earlier today, earning less, having to stretch the dollar further during your lifetime, living longer, the magic, the secret sauce to this thing is starting, doing a little bit. These three, I don't know how well these graphs show up for you guys on the other side, but this shows you the impact of starting early, right? The yellow bar is Anna, who started saving early, right? Early in her career, starting and even doing a little tiny bit early and really getting it to work properly compounds and cannot often be beat. Even if Anna was much further in her career and then started and said, look, I'm going to catch up. I'm going to start putting away big dollars to make an impact on all the years that I couldn't. If she had just started doing whatever, $25 a month, right? One dinner a month and putting it into an investment account, the way that that math compounds, Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And so I encourage everybody to start, meet where you are, meet yourself where you are, and just start doing something so that you've got options throughout your life in terms of how to distribute money. Because this is how we extend the money throughout your life, how we make sure that you've got optionality in terms of what buckets money comes out of, and that you really can be okay. So we started talking about an estate plan and how fundamental this is. As early as 18, people need an estate plan. You got to have directives as an adult on what's going on. So it's never too soon to start, and it's never too late to start, right? Put it in place. It's going to make things easier for the people you love and care about. It is not going to be free. It is not going to bankrupt you either, though. A good estate plan in my neck of the woods. I'm not in New York, right? I'm in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, about 30 minutes north of Hartford. But I think a pretty basic, good estate plan for most people costs somewhere between $800 to $1,000, right? And that's not no money, but it's also not something you need to think about. Oh my God, I got to wait and try to find that money to do it. Talk to most attorneys. Most attorneys will help you. They'll do a consult with you, have you give them a deposit, and then break up your estate planning payment into a few payments, right? Because trust me, it's a lot cheaper to do it that way than having your stuff go to probate. Because by the time you go to probate, whatever money you had between other creditors who can come and lay claim to your money, court fees, attorney fees, and just the time and aggravation lost from your family, that $800 or $1,000 is going to feel like nothing compared to what they would have lost from whatever you might want to leave them. Because I think the worst case is especially if the estate's not very large, by the time it goes to probate and comes out, family's got nothing. And all they've done is lost more time and dragged on the grief that we all experience when you lose a loved one. So making sure that that estate plan is in place, again, helps with some of these challenges. So ladies, I wrap here with simply saying this. There are enough things in this life where you are called to stretch yourself. There are enough things in this life where you are being called to say, hey, I got to figure it out. I got to do more with less. Don't let your money continue to be one of those things. seek professional guidance. Get somebody who you can share your goals with. The best feeling I have as a professional advisor is when my clients are surprised by the end of our conversation. They go, well, Darren, we talked about my goals. We talked about these things that I don't understand and think have anything to do with my money, right? But they help anchor you to taking the necessary action tied back to your money. So don't just go out there and buy a product that sounds good. Don't just go out there and get roped into something that looks pretty good on paper. Seek to understand it. Trust the professional that you're working with so that as we hopefully bring some equality to this world where women are not paid less than their male counterparts, where there's enough to help her get through this entirety of life. And even when she has to take a step back or chooses to take a step into caregiving, that she can do it with eyes wide open and a conscious plan around how am I going to be okay? There's a question on the floor. Mary, virtually. Mary, is that an intentional hand raise?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Jenny, and I have a
I
question.
was trying to unmute, so
Oh, sorry. Jenny, give me 1 second. Mary had her hand up in the virtual room, and then we'll come to you. Go ahead, Mary.
you may have already answered this question, so please forgive me if I'm repeating myself. I did put that in the chat. Some people don't always have, say, an abundance of money to leave,
Mm-hmm.
but and I know you've spoke about mostly money and having, your bank account and your retirement plans all secure through the estate planning.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've come across people who have said someone has passed away and they had valuables like furniture and
Yeah.
amazing things that could be sold off and family came and just ravished the house and it was
Mm-hmm.
gone and then the person who was in charge never got a thing.
Yeah.
So what I'm just asking you, and again, I apologize if you've already answered this question. It's not always about cash, but it's about
Right.
just having those things that you think of value covered.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mary, that's a great point, and it's underscored well here. If my mom were in this room, she would tell you the same as you. I don't got no money, baby. Right? And when I go, I got enough to make sure nobody's stressed out about where the money's coming from to bury me. They know what my intent is, but there's not a lot of cash assets that are going to be left over. But you're right, there's more. She's always thought about what has she amassed in this life. She's got lots of jewelry that she wants to make sure goes to her granddaughter. She's only got one right now, and to her daughters-in-law. She's got things to her sisters and to other people that she cares about that she would want to have go. And I think, from seeing it from the other side, Mary, a really great point you bring up here is that it's more than even about the money piece. Sometimes people who are left, families that are left to deal with the estate, they're all emotionally broken up and they hold on to things that they don't even want, right? Because they don't know what would mom or auntie or grandma, what did they want me to do with it, right? So having given them that clarity through a will is critical too, right? You give people guidance to move through this very challenging season of life. So thank you, Mary, for that. That's great, great point. Jenny, in the audience, you had a question.
Yes, my question has to do with the Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I've already retired,
Yep.
and I've heard of the Roth, but I want to know how would you go about getting into one if you didn't have one or you don't have a 401? How do you go about it? Do you go to your bank? Is there
Yep.
another? Yeah.
Great question. So if you're not currently working, right, one of the biggest misconceptions with a Roth is that to contribute to a Roth IRA, you need to have earned income, right? But if you're retired, you don't have earned income, but you can do what's called a Roth conversion, where, okay, if you don't have money in a 401k, that your money might be in an IRA. It has to be in some type of retirement account. right? And if you've got money sitting in a retirement account where you have not paid tax yet, then that is what you would use to fund, open a Roth IRA. You doing what's called a Roth conversion, where again, I take some of this money that I have in an account that I've saved, I haven't paid any tax on yet, and I can put it into my Roth. You can open that account, Jenny, yeah, through any financial professional, whether it's at your local bank or the credit union, or working with an independent financial advisor, like myself, right? Connecting about that and understanding. The most important thing is they've got to understand where is the money going to come from to fund this, and then they can help you develop a strategy for if and how you can execute that.
And I had one more question.
Yeah.
When you were listing about having a will, a power of attorney, a health care proxy, you mentioned also a durable power of attorney, and you mentioned one other item that I didn't
Yeah.
get to jot down.
That's
What was that?
yeah, I appreciate you asking. It's called a springing power of attorney. So like a spring, right? So that it says, again, I got into a car accident, I'm in a coma. I did not have there was no power of attorney in place, so nobody could go in and touch any of my stuff normally. But now that I'm incapacitated, this power of attorney springs into action and allows whoever I've named to become my power of attorney until I'm no longer incapacitated.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate the question. What other questions come up from the audience?
Hi, my name is Dolores,
Hey, Dolores.
and my question is do you have an age limit to invest in, like not talking about stocks and bonds, I'm talking about like SP 500 or what age bracket, like IBM, and stuff like that, because everybody's,
There's no age limit. So investing is not about age. What age does is it helps inform us around how much risk somebody's likely to feel comfortable with. Because, I'm 36, right? The money that I'm investing in today, a lot of that money I won't need for hopefully 30, 40, 50 years. And so I could take more risk with money now. So again, age only plays into how much risk would somebody typically feel comfortable with when they start to invest, not whether or not they should invest. Everybody, my opinion, professionally, everybody should have money invested in some way because that's the only way mathematically to get your money to continue growing fast enough so that the loaf of bread you like at the store, you can keep buying it 10 years from now because from the last 10 years, it ain't the same price today that it was back then, right? And so when we think about how to help you choose what's called your asset allocation, I'm going to back up a few slides here. This is where age factors in, right? Is understanding an individual's asset allocation. And that's just fancy talk for saying, hey, how much risky stuff like IBM and Nvidia and Apple stock should Dolores own inside her portfolio compared to how much safer investments she should own? Like, I'm going to give my money to the state of Maryland because they just had that bridge that got tore down and they need to build a new one. So they go out to the marketplace and say, hey, who's willing to give us money to build this new bridge? We promise we're going to pay you back over the next 30 years, right? At a reasonable interest rate. That is safer money because it's the government and the likelihood that they don't pay you back is low, right? So that's safer money. And that's what helps us design, if you've ever seen any of these fancy looking pie charts, right? How much of each of those different types of investments you should have inside your portfolio.
Another question,
Mhm.
you talked about the beneficiary, on your checking and your savings account and everything. Now, do I have my kids on my checking and my saving and a whole lot of other stuff. Now, do I they can't, do I put a clause where they can't take anything or I can't take anything unless the other party is there? How did that work?
Yeah, good question. And so this is a question that's really good for your banker, because when I hear a client or prospective client say, "Hey, my kids are on my account," my question is, well, what does that mean actually? Because to me, what it means is they are a co-owner or a joint owner on that bank account. And depending on how the bank has it structured, it could mean that your son or daughter could go to the bank today while you're at this seminar and they could withdraw $1,000 out of mom's account. And the bank's not going to say anything because you're a joint owner and your son or daughter has the right to do that. Now, you might not like that, and you might get mad if you go to the bank and find out there's less money and they go, "Who took my money?" Well, the co-owner of the account. So that is different than, to your point, there are some bank accounts, and again, I'm no banker, but I know enough to be dangerous and why it's important to talk to your banker. There are accounts where it says, hey, no withdrawal can be made out of this account without two signatures from both parties or all the parties on an account, so that nobody independently can go and make a withdrawal, right? And so again, this is where when we get into these kinds of specific questions, I reinforce it's so important to meet with a financial professional. And in all transparency, right, you are all going to get, you've signed in today, you're all going to get a feedback form on today. And if you'd like us to reach out to you and start having these conversations to understand your circumstance and see how we might guide you, happy to do that with you as a starting place for some of these conversations. But, a good place to start there, Dolores, is just checking in with your banker. Have them understand, what do I want to have happen with my bank account, so they can help you structure it appropriately.
One more question. I have a house and my name is the only one on my house. Now, if I want to put my daughter 75 and my son 25, do I do a trust?
It's a great question. Again, disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, but yes, the thought process behind that would be consulting with an attorney and understanding, is a trust the best idea for you, right? Because now the trust owns the house, right? Not Dolores, but that trust document could say the trust owns the house. Dolores has a right to stay in the house and make all the decisions around the house and about the house until such a time that she's either incapacitated or she's passed away. And when she does, then the house gets split 75-25 to your son and your daughter, or daughter and son, however you decide to do it. And the trust could help dictate, like, hey, I don't want y'all fighting about this house. So when I die, guess what? The house is to be sold. And when the house is sold, the proceeds from the sale of the house get divided appropriately. So yeah, if you want to have some clarity on exactly how to divide that up, I think a trust is a great idea with your attorney. And it goes back to our conversation earlier around long-term care. Again, I use Massachusetts law as my reference, right? So here in Massachusetts, there's a 5-year look back on if you end up going into like a nursing home or go on Medicaid, right? And you need the government or want the government to pay for your health going forward. So moving the house into a trust now prevents the government from looking backward 5 years and going, oh, well, the house was still an asset in your name in the last 5 years. So we're going to take that house as a way to get repayment for your long-term care. And then your kids could lose it entirely. So again, that's Massachusetts specific, right? But if there's something similar in the state of New York, which a lot of states do have, it's important to understand that.
Oh, okay. And like I said, I got another one.
That's fine.
Now we're talking about if they sell the house, like when I purchased the house, it was $450. Now the house is 8 and some change now, right?
Yeah.
And if they decided to sell the house, the tax the capital gain, how much would that?
Great question.
How would that take effect?
So when it's well structured, what happens is what's called a step up in basis, right? So Dolores dies today, knock on wood, God forbid, right? House today is worth $800,000. The value of the house that they would pay capital gains tax on is not 450, it's 800. So no, it's actually good for them. It's good for them. Hear me. So today the house is worth 800. So when they inherit the house, the value is 800. If they sell the house 2 months from now and somebody pays 900 for it, they're only going to pay capital gains tax on the $100,000 they earned, right? Instead of the 450 to 900 that you're concerned about, right? Naturally. So there's typically a step up in what's called your cost basis on the day you die.
Thank you.
Absolutely. What other questions come up? Right. Well, I want to create space for us to wrap up and be respectful of everyone's Saturday. So, ladies, again, it has been my honor and a privilege and a blessing to be with you, not just for this session, but over the last 3 months, getting to know you all. You will get a feedback form at the end of today. If you could be so kind as to complete it, turn it into the team, they'll get that forwarded to me. There is a request on there. If you'd like us to follow up with you to talk about your individual situations, we'll plan to do that and do some outreach over the next few weeks as time permits and allows for all of us to connect. In the year ahead, if this has been meaningful, please share that with our hosts and organizers. I would welcome the opportunity to continue to be a resource for everyone into 2026 and beyond. And have a safe, wonderful, and blessed holiday season as we run in to the home stretch of 2025. Thank you.
Darren, before you finish, there's something that keeps coming into my mind, I think, from
Sure.
your first session,
Mhm.
when you mentioned keeping cash or keeping money in the checking account.
Uh,
And I think we just need to hear that again because you said
Absolutely.
it, and it comes back to me as a very important part of something that we have not done and should do. So could you just explain
Absolutely.
to us
Yeah.
again about that?
And Annette, I'm going to paraphrase here what I'm understanding and remembering from that first session. And yeah, I see this often, which is three things. So one, as a community, we are often actually hoarding real cash, right? Paper cash, sometimes in our house, in a separate drawer. My great aunt, God rest her soul, she was a seamstress, and so she used to cut out the inseam of a lot of clothes. And when she died, she told them all on her deathbed, she goes, "Y'all don't throw away my stuff now. Y'all go ahead and feel up all the pockets and all the stitchings." And she had, back in 1992, over $11,000 in cash sewn into her stuff. And Lord knows we probably gave away some stuff and they didn't find all the money. So I think I understand it, right? From the generational transitions through the years. And cash is still a good idea to hold on to some cash, but not your whole life savings and not insane amounts of money that if your house caught on fire, if there was a loss, whatever the case is, that money is gone because it's cash. Once it's gone, it's all hearsay. You can't recover it. So it's important to have your savings in a savings account, right? So to Annette's second point, a lot of folks have a lot of money in their checking account, and there's a huge risk to having money sitting in your checking account because you're out there writing checks, you're out there swiping your debit card, and there's lots of bad actors out there, right? Somebody gets a copy of your check, it's got the routing number, the account number, that is the digital address of where your money lives, and they can go ahead and figure out how to write a check, right? How to copy your check, and they've got direct access to most, all of your money. And when something like that happens, the bank has insurance on it, but they got to take you through a fraud investigation that could take 90 days. Your money's held up. And then if something hits the fan in that period of time, you've got to figure it out. And I had this happen to one of my young female clients earlier this year. She had $9,000 sitting in one of her checking accounts. and somebody got access to her account. They took $9,000. And after a 3-month investigation, the bank said, hey, we're really sorry this happened, but like all of it wasn't on us. And so the insurance company is only willing to pay you $5,000. And so she lost $4,000 of her money, never to be recovered again. Would have been safer sitting in a savings account, right? It would have been detached from her checking. It might have been a little harder for them to access that money. And she might have noticed their behavior, because what a lot of times happens in these strategies is somebody doesn't just brazenly come in and go, I'm just going to swipe money and run. What they do is they test the account. They'll do, hey, I got access to the bank account. Let me try to withdraw $1.56, right? Okay, they get $1.56. And then a few weeks later, they might try to do a $30 transaction. And if that's where all your money is, you're not paying attention to a little $30 here because you got bills coming out, you got things happening, you're shopping. And then one day, there they go. Now they get brazen and they go and they take a swipe at all of it. And then you're left to pick up the pieces. So having money distinctly positioned where you can pay attention to it. Because if I know I got 10,000, 30,000, 50, whatever the number is, right, in an account, and that number typically only goes up, right? Because I'm in a savings account where, and you heard it here from Darren James, I moved my money and I went from getting 1% to getting 3.5% with our friends at Quinn Federal Credit Union or some other great institution, right? Hey, why all of a sudden is my savings account gone down? It gives you reason to go and pay attention to your money, right? You're keeping pace with inflation growth, you're protecting your money, and it's recoverable. And lastly, because I trust there's likely somebody in the audience who, girl, I know you're never going to say it, but it's okay. You're sitting on a big old pile of cash, right? I got one client, she was sitting on north of $250,000 in cash in her savings account. It's important that that money gets segmented because it's not insured if all of it is in one account. So there's FDIC limits, and the limit per account is $250,000. So if something happens and you got all of it, again, I met a nice lady from, incidentally, the organization who connected all of us, the Western Massachusetts Black Nurses Association, which is where I did my first talk that led us here. I met one of their nurses about a decade ago. Nice lady in her probably middle 70s. And she opened up to me. She was willing to learn. Almost $1 million in cash sitting in one account. One, not making her any money. No good. Number two, all in one account. And if the bank had gone belly up, the government insurance program would have said, hey, we can only give you back $250. And some of you might remember recently, I had a client in New York who she had her money in a First Republic Bank when they went under, and she was mortified that weekend. And I've never seen somebody move money and take my advice so fast as to when she lived the practical nature of, wow, my bank just shut down on a Thursday afternoon. I don't have access to my money, and I don't know what's going to happen on Monday morning. Fortunately, it was enough and she was fine, but those are the real risks. So thank you, Annette, for bringing that back up. Those are the real risks of if you've got money sitting in any way, shape, or form, talk to a professional. We are here to help.
Thank you, Darren. It was so important when you mentioned it the first time, and I said some of us didn't hear it, and we need to hear that because I think a lot of us are in that category, and so we know that we have here, and on behalf of the director, we have here a representative for Quinn Federal Credit Union, Deborah Johnson, and she will say to you what importance the credit union is and why we should then put our monies right there. I introduce you
Before that, Ms. Webb, Rev. McKeachin has a question. He's online. He's in the chat room. Yes. Go ahead, Rev. McKeachin.
Tell him he can speak then while he's talking on behalf of Paul Quinn as well.
She's going to speak on behalf of Peggy Brown. Pastor will speak on behalf of Reverend McKeachin.
That's right, Annette. Get it straight.
I got you, sister.
Thank you.
All right, Reverend, are we taking that question? We'll give him a minute. He might be hunting for the mute button.
That's it. Thank you. So
You're
you
welcome.
understand. No, I just wanted to say the question I had, I think you answered. First of all, a wonderful, wonderful, masterful presentation. Thank you. I think I was sold on the first. I was sold on the first presentation. I started putting my money. I have to thank not only you but also Deborah Johnson, who gave me a savings challenge, and I've been faithful to that. So I am investing my money, what I can, what little I have, into the credit union. I did you say we would get this presentation?
It's being recorded, so yes, they're welcome to share it.
Okay, that's one. The second is, and I think you answered the question when you said you had clients in New York. So
Yeah.
I will definitely be talking to you. So you have at least one person from this presentation that will talk to you. I think
Looking forward to it.
planning, estate planning is. You said a whole lot throughout this presentation, all 3 days, 3 sessions. And we really need to take advantage of it. We really do. And it doesn't matter if I'm at retirement age, I'm still working, but still there's things that we can do. And we do have to hold on to the little money that we do have. And we do get sick, things come up, and we really, really, really need to be prepared. So I just appreciate your what you do. I appreciate this seminar. I want to thank Paul Quinn Credit Union and Women to Women. This has been excellent, and definitely I will be reaching out to you.
Fantastic, Reverend. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it immensely. Annette and Deborah.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union, we say thank you, Darren. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been a tremendous experience for us all, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to more to come. I don't think this is something that should end here. So I know there'll be further conversations that will take place down the line. And, as I said, everyone here, I think, didn't look at it as a Saturday afternoon of having to come and drag themselves. They were looking forward to being here after having gone through the first 2 sessions. So we are, as I said, we are very grateful. As far as the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union, Macedonia guests who are here on the line, we are here. The doors are open. Remember what he said, FDIC, only $250,000 of your money is secure in any one location. So open your savings account here at the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union. We'd love to see you, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to count that money for you. So please, 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 on behalf of Peggy Brown, I'm sorry.
I was going to just underscore with you, Deborah, I think how important it is, yes, as you do that, and recognize the impact that keeping your money local has. The magic of credit unions and how they were born were so that you weren't just a number at a big bank, right? Of just another dollar. But here, to Deborah's point, they know your name.
We know your name.
Your dollars, but they know the name and the face and the story behind the dollars. And that is critically important in community banking and for getting y'all some better interest rates on that debt that we need to manage you out of.
Yeah, we can watch it grow together. And as he said, it's never too late to start. Even with a minimal amount, it is more, as long as you're committed and dedicated to putting in that amount, it will continue to grow. So we thank you again. And the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union, as he said, is here to help you with your financial needs. We are growing and we continue to grow with people who are coming to invest in themselves first and the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union second, because it's about you first and your family, and we're here to serve you. So please stop by and visit us when you can. Have a great Saturday, everyone.
Well said, Deborah. Well said on behalf of all of us. Now, before we close, you have to hear from the founder of Woman to Woman. we could not be a woman to woman without this lady who has done so much for church and community. And so, Marion, I ask you to give a word. Unmute yourself. Okay, she's there in spirit, if not in person. Marion had this vision long before any of us ever thought about a woman to woman. And we have tried to follow in her footsteps and to do the mission that she had for us. This was certainly one of them, to have a financial plan, because most of us don't have a plan or don't understand what it is that we need to do, and we lose and have lost a lot. And so spiritually, financially, and otherwise, we have worked to bring
Hello?
this to you. Marion, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Annette. It's
That's all right.
Yeah, I just want to thank you and thank Peggy Brown and the committee who's presented this, who's sponsoring this. And of course, Darren James, we thank you so much. You are just a wealth of information, and it behooves all of us to try to get on board with our finances. You know, it has not always been that way for we as a people. So this is most inspiring, and we thank you so much. I also thank my sister, Aisha Ali. She is the one from the Black Nurses Association who kind of put us on to all of this. So I thank her, and I thank the Black nurses of Western Massachusetts for the work that they're doing. And last but by no means least, I'd like to encourage everybody to get out and vote. So much of what's happening in this world will affect us financially as well. So I thank you all, and God bless you. Thank you, Annette.
You're quite welcome. Well, Darren, again, my heart is open and happy that you were able to share with us, and we need you, so we will get a follow-up, and we'll let you know about that in 2026, and we wish you and your family just the best of love, and we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it, Darren.
Thank you. Love received and reciprocated, and looking forward in 26 to the ability to maybe even bridge the gap of technology and come and commune with you all in person. So we look forward to a vibrant 2026. Have a safe and happy holiday season, everyone.
And you as well. Thank you. Thank you. Pastor, would you please close us in prayer?
Thank you, Tony, for unmuting me. Okay. Got that delayed response. So I got to unmute myself. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we are so grateful for how you have organized and just in your divine way of allowing this presentation to go forward. We thank you, God, for the messenger whom you have sent. We ask, oh God, that you will bless him, his family, his profession, all that he pours into others, oh God, we ask that you pour back into him. We pray, oh God, for all those who are here online or in person. And we ask, oh God, that you will continue to use this seminar as a seed for us to stretch ourselves financially, holistically. Give us the wisdom that we need, oh God, to better ourselves in this way. God, we ask that you would just continue to bless the Paul Quinn Federal Credit Union, bless Woman to Woman. We pray, oh God, for for greater participation next year, because people need to know how to save money and how to plan for the future. And we pray, oh God, that both organizations would do more, oh God, for the community, so we could be a blessing to those who need to be blessed. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Amen. God bless you, everybody.
Okay, have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.